So now we shall get back to Jennifer, who will start, and Jennifer will be followed by Teshome, and after the two, Bayvel, feel free to walk up. You'll be followed by Edmond and Dina.
Thank you. I will share my screen. Let's see, now I'm getting an error message. Let's see, all participants. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, I will begin. Thank you. I'm delighted to be here today. I wish I was there in person with all of my colleagues, but I will present to you from the United States this morning. It is very early here. My social change initiative works with women who are involved in commercial sex in the Mango Kisenyi informal settlement in Kampala. This particular group of women were identified, you can see some of them here, when cohort 2 visited this particular site as a field visit during our time on campus last fall. We listened to the women's stories and the experiences that they have on a daily basis. And some of the stories were very touching. These women face a lot of challenges. And it was at that point, after listening to their stories and their hopes and wishes, that I decided to have this be my site for my social change initiative. I began with a vision when we were all together thinking about how I wanted to execute this social change initiative, a world where people are emancipated from past traumatic experiences with conflict-related sexual violence so they can be their authentic selves and live up to their God-given potential. In order to do this, as an artist myself, I created this original watercolor painting, and it's really meant to represent the experiences of victims of trauma. You can see the areas of light, which there are bright spots, but you can also see the dark areas. And that's because the journey of somebody who's experienced this kind of trauma can be up and down over the course of a lifetime. So that's what this represents. The problem statement for my social change initiative is barriers to economic equality are high for women and girls in poor and conflict affected areas. Many of them result in selling sex to survive, which can create an environment with a lot of sexual gender-based violence. When trauma becomes an identity, individuals get stuck and are unable to see a positive future. The research objectives for my initiative are to identify key social and economic drivers of gender-based violence in Mango Kisenyi settlement. Secondly, to establish connection with the women through mindfulness and creative expression to build resilience. And finally, to identify challenges and solutions to problems that the women are currently facing in their community. My theory of change involves if we can address the trauma and stress of this population's lives through building community, we would create new ways of viewing their own situation and will open them up to a mindset change to build confidence, resilience, and leadership capacity. Data collection for my initiative involved first a pre-on-site survey that I conducted with this group of 70 women who are at risk in this community. These are some of the questions that I asked on this survey that was conducted before I arrived on site in July to do the on-site portion. I asked, if you felt overwhelmed, if you go to bed hungry at night, have you been a victim of violence? Have you ever exchanged sex for money, food, or other items? That was really a key indicator for me to understand what was going on in their lives and the kinds of activities they were engaging in to survive. Do you have a safe place to sleep at night? Many of these women sleep out in the open in this community, uncovered from the weather, the elements, and also it makes them very vulnerable to perpetrators, to people who are looking for opportunities. So it's important that we look at this data first, which is what I did to prepare for the on-site portion of my social change initiative. When I was on site in July, I arrived and spent 2 weeks with the women in the environment there. We wanted to look into some of the trauma that these women have experienced. So I profiled a few of them specifically to learn about their specific stories, the challenges they were facing. This is a photo of one of the women telling me some of the experiences that she's had over the years, some of the challenges. What you can't see in this photo is the baby that's tied around her back. This particular woman has 3 children. She's struggling to survive. She has health challenges. She has food insecurity. And this was just one of the really touching stories that I heard while I was there on site. My initiative included 4 days of workshops where we got to know each other. We did exercises. This one in the middle, you can see the worksheets are the outline of our bodies. This was done by talking about how do we use color to express how our bodies feel. And this was really an intentional effort to connect women with their physical bodies. Many victims of sexual violence disconnect from their bodies as a means to endure the situations that they're in. And so it was really important that first we tried to get in touch with our bodies and understand how we were feeling. I will tell you one of the results of this particular activity during my initiative was one of the participants really was able to realize that their legs were not feeling normal. And after this exercise, they went to the clinic that evening and got a test for malaria and were diagnosed with malaria and started treatment immediately. To me, that was pretty impactful. They had never really taken a moment to scan their bodies and figure out how they were feeling. You can see some of these other photos are women with their artwork. We organized the 70 women into 6 skilling areas that they were interested in pursuing in vocational skills training. And that really created a structure for leadership in this group. Many of these women did not know that other women were experiencing the same challenges. And it was really helpful for them to meet each other, to have community with each other, to hear the stories, and to understand that they are not alone in their struggles in this particular situation. The main focus of the art elements of what we did together was having each one of these skilling groups create a group artwork that represented their interests, their hopes, their dreams, etc. And you can see some of these finished products. I was really amazed at the women's skill. Of course, it was not about the skill of their artwork. It was really more about creating that community, that solidarity with each other. But they were very proud of their work, which was wonderful to see in the end. Some of the other things we did during the on-site social change initiative, we used music every day as a way to, again, connect with our bodies, enjoy each other, create that connection. And you can see dancing was a big part of what we did. We had a DJ and we had sort of a dance party at the end of each day. I learned a lot of great moves, which was fun. Another thing that we did was we toured the Mydell Vocational Skills Training Center to learn about the programs there. and for people to indicate, what would they like to learn if they could learn a skill instead of engaging in commercial sex. I also presented my initiative at the Ugandan Supreme Court. Justice Mike Chabita invited me to come and speak to his legal fellows from the United States. So that was another activity that I engaged in related to my social change initiative. A large part of this particular project was also community sensitization about the harms of gender-based violence. And that included going out into the Mango Kisenyi community to hang some of these finished artworks with the women who created them. And we were very intentional where we hung the artwork. The artwork was hung outside of the brothel that we all visited on our field stop earlier. You can see a photo there of the room in the brothel. And the goal is to keep women out of this room. It's as simple as that. These women don't want to be engaging in commercial sex. They want a livelihood. They want a way to make a living for themselves and their children that does not involve this particular kind of risk. When we were in the community and we were hanging the artwork, we did come across some difficult individuals who were not understanding what we were doing. I will say we had an altercation during that particular portion of my initiative where there was a man in the community who got very upset and wanted to be a part of the photos and did not understand what was going on. And that created a physical fight, which required me to flee on foot and get out of the settlement. So we had to sort of change our strategy and have someone else finish the hanging of the artwork. I want to tell you that as a result of my social change initiative, the point of the data I was collecting during my social change initiative was really to inform potential follow-up projects in the future. I wanted to understand those drivers of social and economic gender-based violence so we could come up with solutions and engage the women directly in solving their own challenges. Breaking that generational cycle of poverty and violence by empowering these at-risk women through training and education to work outside of commercial and coercive sex so they can support themselves and their families in a sustainable way. My research through this initiative has allowed me to come together with my host Rotary Club, the Kisangati Rotary Club there in Uganda, and my Rotary clubs here in Kansas in the United States to write a Rotary Global Grant to address some of these issues that we found during my social change initiative. And I'm very excited about this. I'm working on it currently. We have a grant that will sensitize the community and the local leaders about the harms of gender-based violence through public awareness and community training of leaders in the Mango Kisenyi area. We're going to support these women through the creation of a toll-free number and crisis center for this particular population in the project area. We're going to train the 70 women through vocational skills training and life and financial literacy training to create income generating opportunities. This training has already begun this week. 10 women from the group of 70 have started vocational skills training at the Meidel Center. Very excited about this. And then we, of course, need to address the critical issue of food insecurity by introducing urban farming skills and kitchen gardening to promote self-sufficiency. So these were the issues that I identified through my research with my social change initiative. I've been able to turn them into a global grant through Rotary. And another result of my social change initiative has been to partner with my fellow Goretti to create Magenta Girls Initiative, which is a new international NGO that will support keeping girls in school, retaining them in school in Uganda, and also support women and girls through these economic advancement programs. The focus will be women and girls who are at risk through all kinds of trauma or violence, gender-based violence that they've experienced. And I hope you will see when you look at this group of women, these are the women and children in my social change initiative and in the Rotary Global Grant. And I hope you will see a vibrant group of women who are motivated for change, who have really committed to a mindset change and a behavioral change through these opportunities that we hope to continue after this initiative has finished, by enabling individuals to transform their hardships, build resilience, and become leaders and peace builders in their own communities. We can create real and lasting change. There is hope. With that, I will finish. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. We shall not now have Teshome. Eric, is he online? Perfect. And I would like to welcome the commandant of the Senior Commandant Staff College in Webaja. Very welcome. I'm just thinking to myself, I know that he was promoted recently, so I don't want to use the wrong title. It's now Senior Commissioner of Police.
Okay, probably as we are waiting for the slide, my name's Beve Omono from Zambia. I'm a social worker by profession. Okay, so there we go. So the program that I was looking at peace and parenting. So the idea behind this peace and parenting, I was looking at building the relationship between adolescent child and their parents. We can go to the next slide. No, I'll not use this one. Which one is it? Okay. So the overview and the background of this program was Peace and Parenting is a program for parents and teens to help them cultivate peace. So exactly what I was looking at is like I was trying to help the adolescent child and their parents to build or cultivate peace within their homes and, of course, bringing up things like caring, trusting relationships between parents. So the idea was, I think there was a research which was done in Zambia, about 85% of the adolescents and their parents lacked parenting skills. So this is the overview where it's coming from. So the idea was also to improve knowledge and behaviors relating to confidence and peace. So you discover that a lot of, parents and their adolescents, especially adolescents, they don't have confidence. So you find that they don't relate well with other people. There's no peace in their home. So meaning that even where they go, they'll have issues, problems relating to peace. So this program, it took me about 4 weeks training program targeting at caregivers and adolescents. So it was a curriculum that was designed to cater for the adolescents and their parents. So it had 10 modules. So what was happening was that they were doing each per week. They did this for 3 months. So they were coming to the sessions once per week. So they used to come with the adolescent and their caregiver. So in this program, a parent or a caregiver is not really somebody, biological father. Even anyone who is looking after an adolescent was qualified enough to come with the child to the session. So the target was ages between 10 to 19 years of age. So somebody might ask why targeting 10 to 13 years to 19 years. I was looking at it in terms of building a strong foundation for the adolescents. So when I was doing this program, I used to give an example of a foundation. So when you're building a house, what is the first thing that you do? You build a foundation, isn't it? So if your foundation is not strong, even if you build a very nice roof, you build nice walls, you put very nice tiles, if the foundation was not well built, you find that the house is going to fall, it's going to collapse. So that's the example that I was giving. So now you're looking at the child who is between 10 to 19. This is a critical stage in life. Because if they miss a certain stage, probably they are not oriented properly, or probably they are not managed well. You find that even wherever they go, for example, I'll give an example of gender-based violence. We're talking about peace here. So gender-based violence, you find that children that grow up in homes where there's gender violence, they see their parents beating their mothers. You find that even wherever they go, they're going to do the same things because the foundation was not well built. Yeah, probably we can go to the second slide. So this project was done in Zambia. That is a map of Zambia. And that is a town. It's called, it's not a town, it was done in Kitwe. Kitwe is the second largest city in Zambia. And then the township where it was done, it's Chimwemwe. So you can see where there's Chimwemwe there, there's ShopRite, Pick and Pay, those are the surrounding shops which are around. Actually, I live in that community. So the study or the project was done in this community. So problem statements. So, like I said from the beginning, this project was done with an organization called CIDAS, Center for Disease and Research in Zambia. So they did the research and they found out that 85% of parents are lacking parenting skills in raising adolescents. So I was riding on the data which I got from the organization. So hence it created a lot of major conflicts in homes. So parents apply hard methods of displaying their adolescents, such as beating, chasing, and denying them food and so on, whenever they do something wrong. So this is a practice in Africa. We normally apply hard methods when we are dealing with adolescents. So hence now creating a lot of uncertainty to the children. So you find that we are not resolving issues and problems in a peaceful manner. Then families face a lot of challenge to raise children, such as where I live, it's a border near Congo. So we have a lot of refugees that come to Zambia. So you find that most of the people that come there, or those that were in our study or in the project, they suffered a lot of injustices in war, violence, poverty. So these things have heavily impacted on the families. So you find that there's less caring, they beat their children because of the background. So like I said, the background in this case, in my project, played a major role in how you raise a child. I think we are what we are today because of the background where we are coming from. So now we're talking about now raising future leaders. So if their background was bad, how were they going to be good leaders? Because of where they're coming from, they've got a lot of issues to do with it. They lack peace. Parents did not give them the best out of it. Yeah. So the key project goal was to improve relationship and increasing parenting skills and confidence in raising teenagers at household levels. So the key project, like it explains, it was to improve. After the research that was done, we found that the relationship between the adolescents and their parents was not good. So now the project now had to take this up and trying to improve relationships and increasing parenting skills and confidence in raising teenagers at household level. So the project objectives were helping parents to manage conflicts in homes. Yeah, you find that from what we gathered, a lot of parents, they don't know how to handle or how to manage conflicts in their homes. Then to help families respond better to crisis situations, improve mental health and social support, then improve problem skills, decrease harsh discipline and set goals for their children. In African society, what we know is that disciplining a child is beating them. Hence, this program was trying to outline to say there are better ways of disciplining a child. Challenges and mitigations. The major challenge during the implementations were making parents understand, take ownership. I think this is a problem we have in Africa. People don't take ownership of the project. So when you come to bring a project in the community, they think the project is yours, not theirs. So one of the things, those are the challenges that we had. People think it's your own project, not their own project. Then also limited resources, hence affecting the budget. So I had reached budget to implement this project, so affecting the budget. So high poverty levels, affecting the project, such as parents expect handouts such as money at the end of each session. So you find that a lot of parents or people that came to participate in the program, they were looking for handouts. So meaning that you have to pay them at the end of the project. And then recruitment of parents to undertake the parenting program. Sorry. Recruitment of parents to undertake the parenting program of participants to form a group. So there we left out to form a group. It was difficult because sometimes you have to beg them to come to the program, or because of there's no money, like I've indicated, so you need to pay them for them to come to the project. So literature review, I think I looked at the PCF ways of dealing with the parenting issue. So you find that because of, as parents, because of our own emotions, we're able to transfer our own emotions to our children. Then peaceful parenting creates a necessity for healthy esteem. So you find that children that have not attained very good self-esteem, they will suffer a lot of self-esteem. They'll not be able to be on their own. They are not able to make decisions because their self-esteem levels are very low. Then, like, not only self-esteem goes for psychological well-being, so it will affect also their psychological health. Then underpinning, I looked at behavior that is important to promote stable and culture of peace. So exactly like we are looking at peace in families. So it's important to say there are so many developmental issues that to look at. Yeah. So that is a theory of change. So we looked at parents and child relationship, parenting, training for both child. So the parents and the children were coming both at the same time for the training. Then improving communication between parents and adolescents. Then building foundation and good relationship in families. And the families are happy at the end of the day, and they bond and build a strong relationship. Yeah. So methods that were used in the project. So it involved the relevant data through interviews. So what I did, I used pre-survey and post-survey forms. So the pre-survey forms were given before the training. And then at the end of the training, they were given post-survey forms containing the same information. So they were distributed and analyzed at the beginning and at the end of the training to. What have I done? Is it mine? No, that wasn't mine. Okay. So the forms, the pre and survey forms were distributed so to determine the outcome and the achievement of the project. So intervention and activities. So we conducted the 14 weeks peace and parenting trainings in various communities. Then forming work groups such as income generation activities. So some of the things that we realized is that because of the problems that parents are having that are bringing a lot of insecurity, not having peace in their homes, it was important to come up with income generation activities like savings. And then formulation of training materials, designing an M&Me plan, recruitment and screening of eligible participants in the project, and then writing reports. Then key findings. So the key findings and the impact of the project. During the focus discussion and questionnaires, parents and adolescents felt that the number of occurrences of violence, such as harsh methods used in the past, has reduced. So the project implemented, and the participants also noted that parents has become less violent to adolescents. And then pre and post survey forms, endline evaluation marked improvements in parenting skills. A total number of 100 participants graduated after 14 weeks of training in peacing and parenting. Conclusion, this project proved that parents and adolescents can develop a positive relationship and live in a peaceful way in their homes respectively. They formed peace and support groups in the community to foster development as evidence that poverty increases conflicts in many households. So you find that when people are so poor, you find that even the tension, the way they treat their children increases. So the fact that they were given this training, and then they were also formed support groups to save money, so it helped them to reduce a number of conflicts in their homes. recommendation, it has been recommended that different partners can come on board to take initiative forward to ensure that the project carries on in other areas in town in order to reach to so many parents and adolescents affected in the households. I think there's another slide. So Project Sustainability was with an economic empowerment company that equipped parents to develop savings practices, build their financial literacy, and learn basic entrepreneurship to make people conduct their own initiative in future. So this was so that the program, like I say, it has to take its own ownership, not relying on the organization or the project to come back to them, so they can actually conduct their own initiative in future, so that they can also talk about how they can alleviate peace, how they can promote peace in the community. So those are the photos, the parents and the adolescents doing a map, so mapping areas which are not peaceful in the community. And then after the graduation, that I was giving certificates, that was a group photo. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Hi, I'm back. Is the show me on? Is the show me on? Yeah. Eric, is the show me on? Okay, I'm going to request Edmond to please come and present.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished personnel and all protocols observed. Well, I'm going to give a brief overview of my social initiative. My social initiative project is about food security. And if you look at food security, there are 4 dimensions of food security: availability, affordability, utilization, and stability. Since I was born, my country has been trying to achieve food security, and up to this moment, they are still struggling to achieve food security. So you will see that my project is only going to improve on food security and not to achieve it. Okay. If you look at the title of my project is Peace and Food Under COVID-19. You know, I really struggled to choose those 2 words, peace and food. What is peculiar about me, if I have problems, when I sleep with that problem, I always dream. So when I was dreaming, somebody told me that my project should be food and peace under COVID-19. As we go along, I want us actually to think about those 2 words, food and peace. And if you look at the picture, it's a symbolic type of picture. In Sierra Leone, we achieve or contribute to food security by working through farmer fee schools. So the project established 2 farmer fee schools in 2 communities. That is just a cross-section from one of the villages. And everything is done on the farm. On-farm training, planting, and you can see that they have just prepared the land, they have their tools. So as we go along, this picture actually speaks for itself. Introduction. My project is just a 6-month project that was implemented in only 2 communities, targeting 50 farmer families. And if you look at this project, it is not a gender-based project, but it's very gender sensitive. Among the 50 participants, 70 of them were women. And the project targeted the most vulnerable and disadvantaged people, that is women and youth. So the goal of this project is really to improve and not to achieve, to improve food security and resilience and reduce hunger among vulnerable households and communities, central to mitigate the socio-economic impacts of COVID-19 in Kwenadugu district, northern Sierra Leone. So if you can look that the project has a goal that is to improve food security. So after this goal, the project has only one objective. That objective was small-scale farmers improve their agricultural production in related to quantity and quality through what? Through improved inputs and knowledge. So you will look at there are 2 pillars of this project. Improve inputs and knowledge. So as we go along, these are the 2 things we'll be trying to achieve and contribute to food security. So this project has 2 indicators. That is, all along, we will be measuring 2 indicators. One of the indicators is that at least 50% of the 50 farmers were able to adopt at least 3 regenerative farming practices. As we go along, you will see the regenerative farming practices that we train farmers. Then the next indicator was that 75% of these 50 farmers, they are using the tools and seeds to produce rice, vegetables, and granules. So you can see that the project has one objective and it has 2 indicators to achieve that objective. Yes, background. You know, when I was coming here, my director, Helen, was giving, update about Ebola. I was not worried because Sierra Leone went through the worst Ebola. Yes. So I was even happy. I said, I don't mind about that. So Sierra Leone is still recovering from the effects of what? COVID-19 epidemic. Vulnerable rural communities bear the brunt of the negative socio-economic impact of emerging diseases and natural disasters, including Ebola, flooding, most like long-term effects from the Civil War. The Civil War, we are still recovering from these 3 key issues: Ebola, the Civil War, and COVID-19. So, contextual analysis shows that 13.4% of the population of Sierra Leone are facing acute hunger meaning their lives or livelihoods are at risk as a result of inadequate food consumption. In 2020, Sierra Leone was described as having an alarming hunger level, marking 113 out of 117 countries in the global hunger index. So you can actually see. Problem statement. Before COVID-19, people used to go to the farms and people used to cultivate, harvest, and even transport their produce to the market and earn income. But during COVID-19, or even before COVID-19, one of the overarching problems of Sierra Leone was food insecurity. COVID-19 just compounded the issue. The outbreak of COVID-19 disrupted farming activities. So farmers were unable to go to the farm and cultivate their land, and also the result food chain was breaking. So what happens is that women and youth farmers whose livelihood depends on agriculture were unemployed. So that is one problem. The one problem, farmers were unable to cultivate their land. The other problem of unemployment, so that they can have a stable income. Prices went skyrocketed. If you can recall that in Sierra Leone on August 10, there was a massive strike in Sierra Leone wherein people were killed. It was an uprising against the government because of rising in prices of the staple food called rice. So you can see that food is very, very much critical to social unrest. And certain times people in Sierra Leone say food brings about conflict. But some people also say food brings about peace during isolation. So when the COVID-19 isolated people, one of the things that brought peace was food. The other problem is that in Sierra Leone, there is a high reduction of gender-based in farming. All farming activities are owned by men. Where the tradition is so entrenched that even though women perform 75% of the farm work, they are not being recognized. All the farms are owned by men. In the northern province, where I live, is an animal production zone. Women are responsible for what? For milking the cows. They go and sell the cows. They go and sell the milk. But all the cows are owned by men. And after selling for the whole day, they give the money to the women. So there is really a gender-based problem, and this problem is affecting us. So you can see that all these problems, as we go along, you will see how my intervention addresses each of these problems. The goals. I have already said improve food security, resilience, and reduce hunger across vulnerable households. Also, this project built social cohesion, which was destroyed by COVID-19. One, we trained farmers on regenerative climate smart farming activities, such as slash no burn to zero or minimum tillage. We are training farmers zero or minimum tillage. And also the use of organic fertilizers. Farmers were trained how to compost with zero waste, and there were less use of chemical fertilizers. So the organic type of farming was used. One of the other ways that we overcome climate change is that we encourage farmers to move from upland to the lowland. Because in upland, they are always cutting down trees, burning. But in the lowland, in swamps, there is no cutting down of trees. And there is no turning over of the land to a high degree. So also, the other challenge, it was vulnerability and gender equalities in agriculture. What I have said that women and youths, they are the most vulnerable and disadvantaged group in terms of farming. So the project targeted the most vulnerable, that is women and youth. And 70% of the beneficiaries were women. So you can see that we overcome that by targeting more women. We targeted 35 women when you compare that to only 15 youths. Then the huge number of already food insecure people, that is the food insecure people, the food security in my country is not stable. You'll be food insecure today. After 2-3 days, you go back to food insecurity. So how did we overcome this? Of people who are food insecure will not slip back to food insecurity. One, we tried to establish community seed banks so that they can give revolving loans. So that at the end of the 6 months, farmers will still have seeds to plant after this project has ceased. And also, apart from creating community seed banks, we actually train them. You know, when training is here, it is here unless you die. So we overcome the huge number of already food insecure people by giving them seeds and tools and training. So the overwhelming demand for project support and activities in other communities not targeted. So when the people heard about this, you know, all the communities are so vulnerable that when they saw we are distributing seeds and tools, all the other communities came. So there was an overwhelming demand. But how did we manage this? Because we have already targeted. We sensitized them that this project is a 6-month project, is already a pilot project. So we are going to expand it when we have funds, and we have already informed Bread for the World. You know, Bread for the World is our traditional donor. So I have sent this project to them, and they are looking at these challenges. I said they were overwhelming demand because we have only few seeds, tools, and this, and they have promised to even support us and expand the outreach of this approach. So another challenge was high unemployment rate among women and youths. What happens? The project provided short-term employment, wherein we gave those people seeds, tools, they were able to cultivate farms, and that created an employment. They were able to sell their produce, and also have a stable income. Yes, in the localities, as I said, the project targeted only 2 communities, one Mamudiakoro and Kumasilaya, and there were 50 the total. 35 were females and 15 were males. So you can see that gender is being addressed. Activities. If you look at the theory of change of this project, one, we have the activities wherein we train farmers and we gave them seeds and tools. Then what happens? We also train them and they establish community establishment of seed multiplication farms. They were able to establish seed multiplication farms. But the strategy we use that in the past, in all other projects, they distribute food at household level. That is, the head of the household, they come and give the seeds and tools to the head of the household, and the head of the household distributes them to the other families. But women have been grumbling that most heads of the household, they are husbands, and within the community, we have most farmers married 1 or 2, 3 women because of the farm activities. So most of the tools and seeds we are giving to the loved ones. So what we did is that individual distribution of seeds. We gave individual distribution of seeds wherein every 50 farmers were given their own ration to go and establish their own farms. Apart from establishing the multiplication farms, they have also established their own individual farms. So on the farms, 50% of the produce is used for sale to earn income. So as I told you that in food security, one of the dimensions is affordability. So because farmers were able to produce and sell 50% of the produce, they were trying to achieve that dimension. 25% of the produce was also used for consumption. When they produced 25%, they distributed them among so that they can eat. So that dimension utilization was established. That farmers, 25% was used for consumption. And the other 25% was used to what? To establish community seed banks. Yes. So that addresses the affordability of the food. Key findings. So after the project, or during the project, we conducted M&E, that is monitoring. So during monitoring, wherein we use a focus group discussion, these were the findings, that 95% of the 50 benefiting families are using the seeds and tools provided to sustain their agricultural production. Number 2, also monitoring and evaluation results analyze that 45% of the farm families receive seed rice, 39% groundnut, while 25% receive assorted vegetable seeds, including pepper, okra, and cucumber. The trainings were highly effective, as more than 85% of those that received the training from before confirm having adopted the practice on their current farms. Sustainability plans. this project adopted 2 sustainability plans. One, we have the institutional sustainability and the environmental sustainability. The project achieved the institutional sustainability by establishing what? 2 community seed banks. And also farmer field schools. We walked through farmer field school methodology. 2 farmer field schools were established in 2 communities. And also, the project was linked to the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. At local level, we use already established structures. One of the structures that we use is that they have the development wing at local level, and also the local level wing, so that at the end of the project, they will be able to continue. And all in these institutions, education was there. Farmers were trained. And when they were trained, they will be able to continue and expand the project at the end of the 6 months. The other one is environmental. That is, we introduce environmental friendly activities, wherein farmers use the agroecological farming methods, wherein they are using organic fertilizers through composting. And they were less chemical fertilizers were less used, and pesticides were less used. So the farmers were sensitized in using organic type of fertilizers, wherein they use compost rather than expensive fertilizers. So these are the 2 sustainability approaches we use so that we can sustain this project even after the 6 months. Because this project started from January and ended up in June. So, conclusion. Strategic action needed to be taken to help mitigate the negative socio-economic impact of COVID-19 in Sierra Leone. That is food security. One of the negative impacts of socio-economic impact of COVID-19 was food security and also social cohesion. So the project was about to bridge these gaps, especially social cohesion, and contributed to food security. The background to the project justifies the need for intervention because, as rightly described in the project proposal, human conditions were deployable in Sierra Leone from the inception stage of the project. On the other hand, the government was overwhelmed with the appalling situation of COVID-19, even though they had clear strategies in place to fight the disease. Oh. Yes, I was about to reflect on certain issues. That before I came to Makerere University, you know, when I was a small boy in the secondary stage, we used to say after 5 years, I will be in Harvard University, I will be in most of those universities. So I was saying after 5 years to my colleagues that I will be in Makerere University to study. But that did not happen. So when I told my friends, they are now in America, some are in UK and all over, that I'm now in Makerere University. Oh, they say God has answered your dream. So that is a reflection. And also, before this course, I was only, what I knew about peace is when there is no fighting and guns are not. But when I came here, I began to hear about positive peace. I was confused. What do you mean by positive peace? But after through this training, I know that peace is not only the silence of the guns. And I so appreciate my local Rotary Club partner that is in the name of Francis. He was so much hospitable when I came here, and I am extending my appreciation to him. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Edmund. Thank you so much. Is Teshomi online? Can you please say something?
Hello,
Yes, we can hear you.
thank you so much. So, can I continue now?
Please go ahead.
Okay. So, my apology for all the inconveniences that happened. It's that my laptop asks me so many security issues, so that was happened. And my roommate Edmond and Mono took my advantage, but it's okay. I'm happy for that. So this is Teshome from Ethiopia, but right now I'm presenting my social change initiative report from Prague, from Czech Republic. And I'm so pleased to be here to present my social change initiative to you. And I would like to thank all those individuals, the university, the center staff for your huge contribution to come up with this great report. So I will go through this outline, but some of them are already very well known. So I will just skip some of them, but I will go through this outline. Next. So my social change initiative is focusing on peace education. So re-educating peace to the local community, so that we can minimize the chance of occurring the community-based violence and conflict at the local level. So the question is, why do I want to work on this social change initiative at the grassroots community level? So there are numbers of reasons for that, but one of the most important reasons that pushed me to do this social change initiative among this community was there is the protracted conflict between different identities, clans, who identified themselves in different social groups, social identities. So the conflict occurs again and again in this particular area, which is southwest part of Ethiopia. It's one of the regions in the country. And I just took 2 local villages and 1 urban town to implement my educating peace project. So the aim was to rebuild the relationship between this community and to aware them to come up to exercise living together, respect each other, and to create awareness for them to exercise the values of peace and the values of living together. And next. So I set out objectives, and the general objective is, as I mentioned, to create a space for relationship building between different community members, and in turn, in the long range, to create peaceful community. I know and well understand that presenting or educating or providing training for this particular community may not stop the occurrence of violence at the immediate way, but in the long range, I'm expecting that doing this kind of things again and again in this community may minimize, and in the long run, stop the occurrence of community-based violence and conflict. And I figured out specific objectives, and one of the specific objectives was to create awareness and to motivate them, the local community, and to enforce them to exercise the values of living together, respecting each other, so that they can share these values for their kids, their children, for the community, and in the long range, they can exercise the values and they can live together and respect each other. And next. Yeah, there are challenges while I'm doing my social change initiative. One of those challenges was getting buy-in of all the concerned bodies along the implementation process was really critically challenging. The community has its own values and cultures. When you come up with this kind of issues, they are asking you so many questions. So I just tried to figure out some influential community members among the community. I discuss the issue with them, and they in turn get with other communities to negotiate them and to bring them to work together along my project. The other critical challenge was security situation. As you may know, since October 2021, we have numbers of challenges in relation to security in the country in different areas. So it was one of the challenge while I was doing my research, my project implementation. But what I did was I closely worked with the local media, the local government to get information and to be updated and to be in safe side with the participants and with the local community who are working with me. And the other challenge was financial, which is very much critical, but thanks to some local NGOs and some local governance who supported me to get some small amount of money to get rental hall and to pay for participation cost, for transportation cost for some of the participants who come from outside the city or from far places. So these are the challenges, and I tried to mitigate or to solve the challenge in this way. Yeah, this is already, I mentioned in my full report format in details, but the point is my social change initiative theory of change focuses on if we educate people at the grassroots community level, if we train them, if we aware them, if we bring them to exercise the values of living together, in turn we can create a space for tolerance, a space for living together, and we can able to create a peaceful community, peaceful society, and peaceful village and peaceful district for all of them to enjoy their life and to have the good relationship between them. So what I did was, first, I just went to the local village. I tried to scan all the situation. I met with some individuals, community members. I tried to survey. I made a group discussion, interviewing and getting the feedback from them. So the idea for doing this was that I have to understand the demand, the issue, the challenge of the local community, what they are facing for, and what they really want to do with my project, with my social change initiative. So after getting this kind of information clearly from the local community, from the local government, and from the religious figures, I just come up to my office and then preparing the next step, that is the intervention step. So this is the first phase of my interventions activity, and the intervention was classified in 5 specific activities. And the first one was the planning, identifying, analyzing, and communicating with all stakeholders who I assume have a contribution for my process of implementing this project. And as you see from the picture, this is one of the meetings that I have had with the local community members and the local government representatives, that I'm sharing the idea, and they are just giving me some kind of their own views and opinions at how the project will be happen. The second activity was development of training manuals. It's not a kind of, formal training material, but a kind of guideline that we have to train the TOTs, the trainers of training, and then we have to engage at the step down community level training. So I developed some 25 pages of a guideline, which comprised the concept of conflict, the concept of peace, and then the approach that how we can mitigate, how we can minimize, how we can solve the challenge that's happening at the community level. Then the third activity was the actual implementation, which was conducting training. As you see from the picture, I did this at two phases, two steps. One was the TOT training. Here I was providing or conducting the TOT training for some 12 individuals who have been drawn from the local community, from school teachers and from youth. So I did this for 2 full days. Then they are expected to go down to the community level and to conduct training at the village and at the local level. Yeah, this is the training, one of the training picture at the community level at the village. In general, I reached out 205 participants, which is very amazing for me, and it's 140 male and 65 female. These have been done in 2 villages and 1 urban town or city, which we have provided or conduct training in 4 different venues for this kind of communities. The communities are drawn from different villages, from religious groups, from different identities, from different social groups, from schools, and so on and so forth. So we organized the training at the village, and those who have taken the training as a TOT training went down to the village and provide training for the community. This is the group discussion. What we did was, after we providing training for them, we just make a group and we give them some kind of questions, and then they discuss in group and they come back and present their group discussion. The main pillar, the main point was, why do the community get involved in conflict? So after the discussion, they will come up back to the meeting and they will share their. Hello.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Sorry again. So when I conclude this project, just by saying there is numbers of conflict incidents that happen in this particular village that recurred for the past many years. And the community believe that this kind of research, this kind of training, this kind of intervention has a contribution to be aware of about peace, about the disadvantage of conflict, so that they can train their children, they can train their community members, and so on and so forth. My recommendation was, there are several issues to be done at local, regional, and federal levels. So the community has to be aware. The community has to get the opportunity for the access of education, employment opportunity. The youth in the community has to be trained, to be educated, and get prepared for job. So if this will be done well, we can able to minimize the community-based violence at the local level. And the sustainability plan was, as I mentioned earlier, we have already designed a plan and we formed a committee which will take the responsibility and work together with me for future. And we are also seeking or searching for fund and to be partnered with local NGOs to continue in supporting and serving our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Teshome, for your presentation. And now I would like to request my friend who does not like the way I pronounce her name, Akalo. Thank you.
All protocol observed. The hardest task this afternoon was to wait for Kupsoa. All the way from Sierra Leone to Uganda. I was feeling impatient, but thank you for the good work. While I wait for the slide to come, the Christians here will agree with me. In the book of John, chapter 8, from verse 1 to 11, talks of a story, a situation where a woman was caught in adultery, and that woman was brought forward to, she was supposed to be stoned actually. She was supposed to be punished, probably stoned to death. And but using Jesus was wise. He asked the crowd, who of you has never sinned? If you've never sinned, cast the first stone. And they all moved away one by one. That is how I want to begin my presentation this afternoon. My name is Dina Akalo, and I want to make my presentation on scaling up gender-based violence through male engagement. This was in Oyam, Ugandans. I don't know whether you know where Oyam is in the north. And why do I bring that story in? Because most of the interventions that we've seen are targeting the women, just like in the Bible. So the question we always ask is, while the woman was being brought forward to be stoned, where was the man? Did the woman commit adultery with herself alone? Because she seemed to be the only sinner. The man was not anywhere. So in that way, we need to engage the men when we are trying to tackle the issue of gender-based violence. And that is why I have tackled my, my social change initiative working with men. That is my, the content of the presentation. And that is the background, which says gender-based violence continues to be a concern in the region. Actually, in Africa, it is one of the highest cases of violence that we see. And in that UN report, we see that Africa has the highest prevalence rate of gender-based violence. Why did I look at that? Looking at the problem back at home here in Uganda, we realize that women constitute more than half of the population of Uganda. But despite, and in Uganda, by the way, we have a very rich legal and policy framework on gender. But despite that, we still see that women continue to be treated unequally compared with men in the socio-economic and political spheres. Women, we continue to be victims and survivors of gender-based violence. And we bear the brunt, the biggest brunt of gender-based violence, which includes sexual harassment, which is practiced in places of work and institutions of learning. In institutions of learning, actually, one time I was working with institutions, and I got a very funny case in Gulu University, where the students were telling me, you know what, here we have a lot of what they call sexually transmitted marks. So those are one of the issues that we have. And in the east, that is in Captura, we still have female genital mutilation, and all those comprise gender-based violence. So the interventions that I looked at in this project, I largely employed the male engagement approach to gender-based violence prevention and response. Just like I started by giving a scenario in the Bible, we would have been very happy to see the man also being arraigned with a crowd and say, you have committed this with the woman. But we only saw the woman being brought forward. And while probably she was being stoned to death, the man was left free and probably could have been committing another adultery with another woman who would be killed, and we would see that circle. So here we want to say, to tackle this problem, let us have the people we say are the perpetrators also on board so that we can work together with them. And I had a lot of consultative meetings with various stakeholders to identify the model men. I was working in a village, and I didn't know who was who can, get enlisted in the work. So I leveraged on my work with the church. I work with a faith-based institution. So I leveraged on that to work with the religious leaders in that community. I also worked with the local government structures in that community and also with the police to identify the men that at least we can say this one, if this one went and talked to the community about ABCD, they will listen to them. You must be someone of integrity before you can be said to be a model man. So after identifying them, I later trained them, and they further cascaded the knowledge acquired to the community through sensitization and promoting positive behavioral change. That was my theory of change. In my mind, I realized that if you look at the context, what were the issues that drove me to do this? I realized that there are high rates of gender-based violence in Icheme sub-county, in Oyam district. But also my strategy, as I said before, was the male engagement approach to gender equality and women empowerment. The outputs, I realized, were increased number of men engaged in GBV prevention and response in Icheme sub-county. And the outcomes is that we have a reduction in the number of gender-based violence in Icheme. And our goal, my goal, was to eradicate gender-based violence. After 2 months from the time I conducted that training, I went back to the men. I worked with only 10 men, trained only 10 men, and I sat with them in a kind of a monitoring visit, and just to find out what worked well, what didn't work well, what are the issues coming up, and so many issues were coming up. The men, of course, are further cascading the knowledge acquired to the community. That was on a positive side by sensitizing communities and promoting positive behavioral change. They're also sensitizing them about the dangers of gender-based violence. The men pledged to put an end to gender-based violence. And at least within that time, I told them, you don't have to move to the further community. Actually, your neighbor, your next immediate person next door, that is your neighbor. Start from there. And according to them, yes, they had witnessed some cases of reduced gender-based violence. Okay. In the course of the training, we had a very, I don't want to call it weird scenario, but these two boys you see, it was a 2-day training, and on day 2, some boys, while we were having lunch, some 2 boys, these boys came actually, and they were begging for food. So we gave them the food, but later I took interest. I was like, because in our rural communities, we do not yet have street children. There are no streets. So all children are ideally in homes. But these were actually street children in a place where there are no streets. They were begging. So it was quite ironical. I took off the time to find out what the problem was. And the story behind is that the mother of these children died as a result of gender-based violence in her new marriage. In that community, it must be common that when you go to a second marriage and you go along with your children, they might accept you as the woman, but the children sometimes don't get absorbed. They don't get accepted by the new family. And to make matters worse, these are boys, so they begin looking at issues of, this might, they'll get integrated here, they are going to grab the property. So somehow, I think the best way to get rid of them was also by getting rid of their mother, who had come from a new marriage. And so she remarried after the father of these boys. Her original husband had also killed his brother, so he was on the run, and that is why she remarried. But the relatives rejected them, so they went on the streets, rejected these kids. And during the training, the male champions. So when I got the story, I actually came back to the room and I shared with the male champions. We are calling them the male champions, the men I'm working with. I shared with them the story. And one of them was like, no, it doesn't count. The people in that place are called the Lango. He said, no, in Lango culture, we don't have street children. everyone belongs to a community. We have to find where they belong. So they quickly, mobilized their own resources, and we liaised with the Child Family Protection Unit officer of Icheme Sub-County, and she was able to trace the village of these children, and handed them over back to the relatives who was pledged to take care of them. So for me, it was really a testimony because, and if you see from the first picture, that is how they came, very dirty, barefooting. But some of the money in the other picture, some of the money that was contributed was also used for buying them new clothing. They were actually almost going naked. So you see that they look quite different from what they are here. Yeah. And the police, the Child Family Protection Unit officer, pledged actually to continue monitoring their situation. And I was happy, the men were also happy that once more these children found a home. And for me, I saw that we actually preventing future violence, because if these children continue on the streets, you don't know what they will become in future. The conclusions and recommendations is that maybe what I didn't say on some of the findings is that I didn't write them here, but coming to the conclusion now, I realize I should have mentioned them. One of the findings the men told me was that, Dina, the men are saying that empowered women are very hard to manage. And it is unfortunate, or it is fortunate, the NGOs that come talk so negatively about men. It is that they really demonize men as if they are no good men. But actually, there are men also who are good. So kindly, this is a very good program, and we are willing to support that. But they also said that some of the women, especially those ones from the failed marriages. Marriages fail for different reasons. But then some of, can I say feminists? Okay, gender workers who promote women empowerment and equality. Some of those who come from failed marriages seem to use that platform as a way of, revenging on the men. So they don't have kind words, they torment the men, but men are also suffering in silence. So we shared a lot, and afterwards the recommendation was that women and all feminists can no longer stay away from men and expect positive change, because it is mostly men who are cultural leaders and therefore the custodians of culture. So actually, and it is true, because until very late, all the programming was gendered towards empowering women, leaving the men behind. But I'm glad that very recently the government also came up with a strategy to include men in the gender-based violence prevention work, which I think is a plus. And then secondly, they said working with men would help them appreciate the negative consequences of certain cultural norms and values that have perpetuated gender-based violence. So we need men as agents in the gender justice movement. We cannot talk alone and expect the men to come on board and stop doing what they are doing, when actually we are not telling them that what you're doing is wrong. Sorry. We also realized that, this was a small one. I only did it in 3 months. But then we realized that a fully fledged project on working with men to end gender-based violence would be ideal. This was revealed by the men in their communities, because then that would mean we have a chance to also bring the men to understand that gender-based violence is actually bad. We need to focus on sensitization of women, on responsible empowerment. That is something that the men shared with me. That, Dina, even at this level in Icheme is a very rural place in one of those districts in northern Uganda. That we need to help women understand what responsible empowerment is. It seems women think they only pick what works for them. In the gender justice movement, women want to play double standard. For example, I am working, and I could even be earning more than my husband. So I will pick that element of the culture which says the men provide. And I say, you provide, because that is what works for me. So, but we are saying, why can't we also talk about transformative femininity now? Let us learn some things and learn them, that if we want the men also to be fair to us, why can't we also be fair to them? If I'm earning more, is it wrong to buy food, to take care of family? because that is actually what we are talking about, that we support each other. And then we said, that is what I'm talking about, the double standard. That is a picture of the training that took place. Here, it was a group exercise, and we are saying the characteristics of a good real model man. I made them talk about that, and they have written them in the local language, that is Lango. And I may not read, but that is, then the other one is actually myself, and I was talking to the men. And yeah, so that is where we are going. I thank you so much for listening.
Helen reminded me that every man in this room is good. How true that is, I do not know. Liz says, except me. I'm going to take one question for each of our participants. One question for each of our participants. One for Jennifer, one for Teshome, one for Mono, one for Edmond, and one for Dina. So I'll take questions in that order. One for each of the participants, of the presenters rather. Yes, that's for, pardon? Okay, we have one for Jennifer. Any that we have for Teshome? Anyone with a question for, or question like we say in Uganda for Teshome? Okay, no question for Teshome. Any question for Bevel? Any question for, okay, Seth will have that. Any question for Edmond? Anyone with a yes? Thank you. And then any question for Dina? Yes. So no one yet for Teshome? Okay, we'll go in that order. For Jennifer, for Bevel, for Edmond, and then for Dina. I'll start.
Thank you, Jennifer. This is Michelle from Cohort 4. I'm from Colombia. Based on the story that you were telling us about the problem you had at the brothel when you were hanging the picture, I wanted to ask you, how have you thought of addressing the risks for the women who actually live in this community once they start talking about these issues that might be a taboo among the community and that might cause some, how do you say this? Like might get some people uncomfortable, like this guy that you were telling us about. How are you thinking of addressing those risks for the women there? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the question. I think the focus is not so much on having the women address the issues with the men in the community. I think it's more having the women feel empowered and self-sufficient and focused on their livelihood, which will require the vocational skills training. Many of them said that the biggest risk they face in their community is being idle. So that is, without training or skills to have a job or a business. And that really was just a huge impediment to their safety, just being idle, because that makes them targets for some of the aggressive individuals in the community. So I think that's a good point. And I think training, which is part of our global grant initiative to provide sustainability, will address that issue, how women can talk about the issue. But the focus is more on solving the problem of idleness through some of the follow-up projects. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. For Bevel.
Hey, Bevel.
Seth, yeah.
This is Seth, your roommate. Great job. I wanted to ask you about peaceful parenting, which I believe is the methodology you used. And is it something that was created in Zambia, or where did it come from? And was it easy to recontextualize it to where you grew up and the people you work with, or did you have to tinker with it a little bit to make sure that it worked for the families who were involved?
Okay, a question for Edmond. I saw a hand, yes.
My question is simple. Objective number 2 was about social cohesion. And I would like to know what were some of the indicators, because you said you aim at improving, not achieving food security, right? So I would like to know what were some of the indicators for social cohesion. Thank you.
Okay, there was a question for Dina. Yes, the lady.
Thank you so much. My name is Caro Nyangoma, an alumni of Makerere University. And my question to Dina is, you talked of transformative feminism, rather empowerment. And I'm kind of bothered especially about the point of playing double standards. You know, we are a community where women have always been footing bills at home, even in the local communities. And so when you're preaching this gospel of double standards to men, I think you're actually spurring more conflict in homes, because women have always done this, but the question is, are men also willing to come and wash dishes? Are they going to do it willingly, or they will just do it for the sake of it? Because when you tell me as a woman that you need to also foot these bills, of which most of us have been doing that, but as men, are you also preaching them the gospel of making sure when they're in their homes, they should be helpers to their women? You cannot eat your cake and again have it. So much as we are preaching the gospel of equality, then each party should play a part. Dear men, are we willing to sweep the compound without complaining? If you answer that question, then we can be able to come on ground of equality and peaceful equality. So in our preaching, in our activities, let's preach more of peace rather than using the language of double standards, because that sounds more of sparring, more conflict. Thank you so much.
That's it with the. Does anyone have a question for Teshome? Strictly Teshome. No. Strictly a question for Teshome. If it's not for Teshome, we cannot. And yes, I wash the dishes in my house. I wash the clothes. I actually do laundry in my house.
I had men here protesting.
And
senior commissioner said, I sweep the compound. And he said he sweeps. So there is evidence in this room that people are really sweeping the compound. But the question is, under what circumstances are you doing that?
I choose not to answer that question. Yes, let's have our presenters respond to the questions.
So thanks so much, Seth, for that question. So the first question you asked me about where was it adopted, isn't it? Yeah, so it was adopted from Clowns Without Borders in South Africa. I'm one of the trainers that was certified to train this project. So what I did was, it's on pilot right now in Zambia. So I had to do a pilot project from Zambia. So I don't know, what was your next question? Probably you can share. How was it adopted? It's a challenge, change is not easy thing to do. Because you're looking at us as Africans, we believe in harsh treatment to our children. So you see the way an African believes in terms of discipline. Discipline to them is beating, yelling, shouting at a child. But now coming away from that change is quite difficult for them to adopt it, to stop beating. So you find that any slight thing, they have to beat a child. So in this project, in this program, the idea was to build a good relationship with a child. You need to bond with a child. You need to have quality time with a child. You need to praise the child for good things. Many times in Africa, even in society where I come from, people don't praise their children even for good things. Now we're talking about improving, managing behavior, even managing conflicts, because if you don't praise your child, or probably you don't correct them in a better way, you beat the child will hate you. Like I was saying during my presentation was, you see, children that come from broken homes where there's no peace, meaning that you are raising, because I was looking at peace from a foundation stage. So peace probably is at different levels. You're looking at family, you're looking at organization, you're looking at the country, you're looking at the nation. So, I mean, for example, if I come from a broken down family where there's no peace, how do you expect me how do you expect me to practice peace in my workplace? So you find that because I'm used to violence, I'm used sorting out problems with using non-violence methods. So you find that I'll continue like that. So like I say, change is quite difficult. It's not easy, but since it's in pilot in Zambia, I think this is the second year running. I think people are getting there to change. Thank you so much.
I thank you very much for that question. Social cohesion was just a secondary issue to this problem, wherein during COVID-19, people were prevented to come together and work. So there was a breakdown in all social activities. But one of the indicators is that after this project was a post-COVID-19, people were now able, men and women were able to come to the farm and now work in peaceful coexistence. So one of the indicators is that men and women now come together to work together for peaceful coexistence. Thank you.
One day, I came across a post on Facebook, a sarcastic post, and it was saying, it was a man posting, and the man was saying, I have 20,000 shillings. Maybe some of you have seen it also. That I have 20,000 shillings. My wife has 50,000 shillings. How much money does the family have? How much how much money does the family have? Okay, my sister Nyangoma, I must also, that is rhetoric, you answer it, I will not need the answer, but it kept me, to me it was speaking to something already that we are talking about. Gender discussions are normally heated discussions. You may not have one answer. It is really a discussion. So 2, 3, 4 minutes here won't be bad. What I'm saying is, when I do my training, I like to use, especially for men and women, I like to use what we call the conventional valuation method, where I will get the men, if assuming it's just that I had only men, but still, there were 10, I put 5 one side, then I put 5 also on the other side. I gave them flip charts, and I told one group, okay, assume that you are now women. Assume you are women. I told another group, you are men already, eh? Tell me from the time you wake up in the morning, and this is a rural setting, from the time you wake up in the morning, what do you do up to the time you go back to bed? I must tell you that the men who were men in the group hardly filled their chart. The women in the group, who were men actually, had 3. Yeah? What am I saying? That while we might be having men, rather women, who are actually contributing to the family upbringing, it is not being recognized. But that does not also take away the fact that we have good men. And that was the center of the discussion. That dinner, while the percentages, now we talk about the percentages here, and that is why the men were saying, even as men, we are suffering, but nobody is taking care of us. We are also suffering. These men have become violent, they're empowered, they're what? All those things were coming up. But then I told them, okay, now for you who were women, and you had 3 charts, if, for instance, you woke up and you helped your child dress up to go to school, does that make you less of a man? Does it stop you? By the way, you must know the only thing that brings the difference is your ability to impregnate a woman. Otherwise, there is nothing that you cannot do that a woman can do. So what I'm saying is, My sister Nyangoma, it is true that women have contributed, but these issues were coming from the community. When you are doing your research, sometimes move away from what you want to hear. Hear what is there. These issues are there. It is also true that they are not recognizing it, but it is also true that there are men who do it, and we need to recognize them. I am not escalating violence. I am only bringing the truth.
Thanks, Dina. There's a famous book I read when I was doing my MA titled The Second Sex. It woke me up to very interesting ways in which we create worlds. And coming from a literary perspective, I think men are scared of their vulnerability. It's one of the hardest things I've had to deal with in my few years of life. But then I was brought up by a woman, so I cry, yes, and I sweep the house. And I would like to know under the pardon? I would like to recognize the presence of our Senior Commissioner of Police, Moses Kafero, who is the commandant of the Webaja Senior Staff Command College. And I would like him to say something, but also probably explain to us the circumstances under which he does certain things. Thank you. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. The director of the Rotary Peace Center, the Academia of Makerere, the Peace Fellows, good evening. I was called to say a few words in 1 or 2 minutes. First of all, I'm happy, and I thank Professor Helen for the invitation. This is quite a very good conference. Since I sat there, I've benefited a lot. So thank you for always thinking of the Senior Staff College. And of course, it's good to be here. I was a student here 25 years ago. Then moved on to put on the uniform. But I also am at home when I hear things of peace, conflict transformation, because one of my masters is in peace and conflict transformation. So the presentation here, as point number 2, are very, very intellectually analyzed. I must say the ones I listened to, food security, parenting and peace, the role of men in GBV, and those online, they have been very informative. If I was on the assessment committee, I would have passed all of you. But I know, I'm not a member, but I know the professors here will really be impressed. I also wish to conclude by saying, especially Madame Dina's discussion here and answer session, that's true. Whereas there are some men still with the ego, and there are many, but there are also those who are suiting the occasion, and especially those to do with the other parenting and peace. Those who have been brought up by parents, seeing their father do things, I think we are going to be having a better world. And these days, there's a lot of improvement. So for me, like I was telling Professor Helen, at home I sweep. I help also to ensure that children put on their uniforms to go to school. But that question, which was fundamental of the under what circumstances, we're always conditioned. So I was telling her, me I sweep when I know visitors are coming, and they'll say, which kind of man is in this house who can't help? Or if kids have to dress, they are making a noise that you should dress them up quickly, and they go to school. So we now still have to answer that question of under what circumstances. So that if with or without circumstances, we still support the women, I think we shall have a better world. But I thank you so much, the Peace Fellows. Well, the work that you do is helping us as police to reduce crime, because all these programs and projects you are doing, I think they are helping the police a lot out there. Before going into the police leadership of the training. I've been a field commander. I headed Kampala Metropolitan Police for many years. And I think all these interventions you are bringing on board, they can be very, very helpful in building peace and transforming societies for the better. So I thank the Rotary Peace Center. They are not only helping to train peace fellows, they are helping us as the Uganda Police. We are doing a master's. Part of our officers at the college, they do a master's in peace and conflict studies taught by Makerere. They are doing a great work. They are regional police commanders, district police commanders, they are heading units. So Makerere is helping us a lot as the Police Senior Staff College. We're also building programs, which soon we shall finalize with Makerere, a diploma in police administration, a postgraduate diploma in police administration. We're also working on them to finalize and start a program of a master's in humanitarian action and crisis management. So some of these will even be done by people who may not necessarily become police personnel, but you want to get that skill and knowledge. The way you can do theology, but you don't want to be a reverend. So thank you so much, Makerere University, for always inviting us and also training. And above all, I'm also Rotarian. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Nyangoma, please look for Dr. Amon Mwine in the School of Women and Gender Studies. Tell me what he says to you about masculinities. There's someone called Kathy. I need to be sure that she's on.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I'll give you about a minute or two, and then we'll move on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I want to say greetings from Niceville, Florida, USA. My name is Kathy Serpin, and I am the Rotary District 6940 Peace Fellows Chairman. Our nominee this year was Shamati Youssef. He speaks so highly of this program and all of his colleagues. I personally am so inspired by your meaningful projects and the passion and commitment you have conveyed in implementing them. I need also to convey a special word of congratulations to Dr. Helen for her leadership in helping to bring Rotary's dream of a more peaceful and understanding world to reality more and more. Thank you so much. Best wishes to all of you.
Thank you so much, Kathy, and thank you, Yusuf, for bringing Kathy on board. We're going to have our last session of presentations. Man of my land, Howard Tumusime. And then we'll have Teresa, and then we'll have Suvi, and that should be the end of our presentations. Yes. Okay, Suvi will come before Teresa. So Howard, Suvi, and Teresa in that order.
My social change initiative is all about ensuring good financial management and resilience for the oil and gas affected projects, affected households. You are seeing that picture, it is me with some of the oil and gas household affected. And I look towards making them empowered financial management-wise. Just a bit of background. You can go to the next slide. A bit of background. As we all know, Uganda, or the Republic of Uganda, discovered oil way back, and since 2005, Uganda and the joint venture companies for the oil invested into making Uganda an oil economy. And lucky enough, by 2017, Uganda reached to the development phase of oil and gas resource. By this, it required to establish various infrastructures and facilities to make sure that the oil is produced. And by this, it initiated acquisition of land where these facilities are going to be placed. And by this land is owned by people or households, and they own some other assets on the land. People opt for the cash, and if you are to assess, at least 99% of the households affected by the project opt for the cash compensation. Much as oil companies and the government invest into providing financial literacy, which is one day of activity, the PAPs or the households affected by the project still bear the burden of misusing the money they get. I would say they get sufficient cash compensation, but you find them misusing. That's why I'm saying, through my simple study that I undertook in one of the villages affected, I realized 65% of the PAPs misused the money that they got because they didn't have sustainable program to make them manage their finances well and make their families resilient in the future. So this creates a lot of conflicts. Once somebody loses his money recklessly, starts creating conflicts with the neighbors or the families themselves. Once they lose money, you find the husband, the wife, they are not cooperating, and it becomes very confusing for the family, real chaos and conflict. Maybe just to give you an example, when some of PAPs were compensated for refinery and the airport in Hoima, there is one man that was observed. For example, he went to buy a motorcycle called the Bajaj because he had over 100 million in his house. After buying the Bajaj, this is a man who had to ride it without papers to make him ride. On the way, he found a traffic man, and a traffic man stopped him. The guy stopped. They asked him to provide driving license. The guy just ignored and ran away, left the motorcycle there, ran away, went back to the town and bought a new Bajaj. So it was a bit alarming. At the same time, there is a man who got like 100 million. The guy went and rented a hotel, which is very expensive, ignored the wife at home, and he got new girls that were selling themselves within the hotels of Hoima until the guy lost the whole 100 million. Going back home, the wife is asking, where did you put the money? Only conflicts characterized that household. So that's why it was very necessary for me to come up with a project to help these people who get compensation, manage their finances very well such that they are able to sustainably live, not to complain on government, we are given less compensation, we are given what, but they need to effectively utilize what they get. Yes, as I told you, my major goal is to have a peaceful and financially resilient household. And the specific objectives, I looked at training the beneficiaries in financial literacy, equipping them with business and financial management skills, such that we are able to put them into the village saving groups. These people can easily save part of their income in the village groups. If they cannot put the money in the bank, at least they have a village bank which is connected to the bank, and they can access some credit facilities from the village banks or village saving groups. And yes. What were some of the challenges I encountered in implementing this project? One of the major challenges was the finance. You know, when, as many of the fellows have been talking about money, when you go to these people, much as they received the money, they want you to give them money. Why? Most of the institutions that work in the villages have spoiled the community members. They give them money, they give them drinks, soft drinks, and it appears as if attending a meeting or a certain program should be paid for. But I continued to make sure that I'm not providing the helping hand for money. It is to help you, and it was good enough that the beneficiaries attended the program. Yes. This one, the changes theory, the theory of change. As I've told you, it looked at the end goal was having a peaceful and financially resilient household. What is it that we are supposed to do to make sure that we achieve the target? The activities are looked at. I will explain them. There is where I will explain. We looked at activities, output, outcomes, goal, and a strategic goal. We can go on. So this one, still you can jump this. Yes. What were the major interventions that I undertook to make sure that people are equipped with better financial management skills and at least participate in keeping their money well and investing? Before we started any other thing, I looked at forming a core team that helped in executing this project. I oriented them, and we designed the training materials that each and every member of the team had to be aware of. We went on to mobilize the beneficiaries. The beneficiaries are very many because oil and gas activities directly have affected not less than 10,000 households. And that is directly. If you are to look at indirectly, there are very many that you can't quantify. So we targeted specific villages to make sure that we get the few that were willing to participate in our program. And we implemented our financial literacy and the business management training. We formulated business saving groups where the members were supposed to save part of their income, regardless of where they get it from, not only from compensation. If there is anybody that is undertaking any other economic activity or income generating activity, was free to save, participate in all the services that the saving group provides. We provided mentorship services. Much as we started these groups or saving groups, they require the routine or continuous mentoring to make sure that they don't go off the line, they keep the candle burning, they save part of their money, they undertake to make sure that they follow the guidelines of the groups and the financial management. In executing all this, we were sensitive about gender. As my colleagues have been talking, we made sure that a household chose who to represent, who should be represented in these groups or in this program. More so, we encouraged women to participate in the program. So we continue to monitor. Then partnerships. We are looking at the partnerships whereby the local government units that are at the lower level, like sub-county and the district, had to make sure that they are part of this program. During induction, they were there. During the mentorship, and making sure that these groups are registered and they directly connect to the government programs that comes away along the way. Then we observed that most of these activities, oil and gas activities, involves destruction of some environment. When they are, for example, establishing a facility, for example, central processing facility, they clear on top. So we thought it wise that these households that are benefiting from our program at least participate towards tree planting. And we encourage at least each and every household to plant at least 10 trees. And we had 100 beneficiaries that brought to the number of 10,000 trees that were planted. And if this one is to scale over, we may end up planting 1 million trees or over. Yes, we can go to another. So if to state specific key findings and challenge and impact, so as I've told you, this project of mine was established as the result of finding a gap that most of people that were compensated misused the cash. So that's why this project came, and it was very important to make sure that they are equipped with better financial management and business skills. So we realized that there was a need for innovation, to have more innovations by financial institutions and other credit institutions to make sure that they don't look at only, for example, people who are saving money with them, people who have bank accounts with them. They should roll over their program to all other stakeholders to make sure that they benefit. Because if a person gets money in the bank, 100 million, removes all of it from the bank, takes it at home, somebody may steal it, or the person may misuse it the way I've explained it to you. Then we had 100 households, as I told you, that directly participated in the program, and all these are formed into 3 saving groups in 3 different villages, and they are effectively participating in the program. They are saving part of their income. They are attending the monthly meetings. They are attending the weekly saving, and they benefit all the services that the groups provides. Yes. So my general conclusion is these PAPs, as we have said, it is true government and the oil companies have done their best. They have tried to educate these people, to equip them with the financial literacy skills, but it is a short one that needs the follow-up. There is a need for joint efforts by different stakeholders to make sure that these people manage their finances very well. Apart from people coming or organizations coming, say you paid these people small money or these people are suffering, no. Let's join hands and make sure that much as they were compensated the money you are talking, let them use the money well. So let different players come, join hands, and make sure that these people are not there to suffer anymore. Another slide. Yes, sustainability plan. As I've told you, we formed these groups. People are already in the groups. These people can go on even if we are not there. They have their management structures within the groups that is self-governance, and people are saving their money. They are no longer eating it as they used it to, mostly for those who accepted to be in the group. So we think the saving groups that others call circles, but saving groups graduate into circles, can make sure that they continue providing the financial literacy services to others and save part of their money, or even create other saving groups within the regions affected by the oil and gas to make sure that these people cannot experience the problems I've been mentioning. So linkage to financial services. All these groups, since they started operating, they have been linked to the banks and they have opened their bank accounts with the banks. Banks have taken over them in terms of providing them further mentoring and other services that they have to make sure that they benefit. Thank you so much. That's what I had.
Thank you, Owad. Suvi, are you online?
Yes, I'm here.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. I will share my screen. Hello, everyone from Finland. My name is Suvi Arnio, and my social change initiative is Baby Box Uganda. And I decided to do my my initiative in Uganda instead of my own community in Finland, because we don't have so big challenges right now here in Finland. And as we all are studying in Uganda, it was a natural choice for me to do it there. The number of maternal and child disabilities and deaths remain high in Uganda due to lack of access to basic antenatal and postnatal care and unsafe childbirths. Maternal health services do not reach all women in need of those in Uganda. Everyone cannot, for example, afford them, or the distances can be too long in the rural areas. And the most vulnerable part of the population is Ugandan teenage, poor, and rural women. But most maternal and child deaths and injuries could be prevented if women had access to skilled care during pregnancy, childbirth, and after delivery. And like Makerere University, this Finnish baby box celebrates also its 100 years journey this year. It was launched in 1922 by a charity organization and was designed to give all children in Finland an equal start in life. Back then, Finland was an agricultural society and the majority of the population lived in poverty. Maternal and infant mortality rates were high, 65 out of 1,000 babies died. And 1938, the government started to provide baby boxes for disadvantaged mothers, and 1949, all expectant mothers have received a baby box free of charge on condition that they participate in antenatal care. And the box not only helped mothers to get the supplies they needed to look after their newborn baby, but also guided pregnant women into the care of maternal health professionals. And this baby boxes helped Finland to radically lower its infant mortality rates. And now we have one of the lowest infant and maternal mortality rates in the world. And because of this success story in Finland and the fact that Uganda has high maternal and infant mortality rates, I wanted to try if this baby box could also work in Uganda to lower these rates. The problem is that every day approximately 800 women die from preventable causes related to pregnancy and childbirth, and 94% of all maternal deaths occur in developing countries. In sub-Saharan Africa, the risk of a newborn dying before the age of 1 month is 10 times higher than in Europe. And these numbers show that there is a huge inequality in maternal and child health between global north and south. In Uganda, neonatal mortality rate is 46 out of 1,000 babies, and maternal mortality rate is 375 per 100,000 live births. And sustainable development goals are to lower these numbers to 12 and 70. 62% of women deliver outside health facilities in Uganda, and 6,000 women die every year from preventable causes related to pregnancy and childbirth. For every woman who dies, an estimated 20 to 30 suffers injuries, infections, or lifelong disabilities. And Baby Box Uganda was designed to tackle these challenges. The goal was to improve maternal and child health in Janja area in Kampala by securing a safe delivery for vulnerable mothers. It is an incentive for all future mothers to come for maternal services. And that way we can reduce preventable maternal and child disabilities and deaths by offering a safe pregnancy and delivery for every mother, also for those who cannot afford it otherwise, and also give a good start for life for every baby. It also strengthens positive peace, gender equality, equitable distribution of resources, healthy life expectancy at birth, and free flow of information. And it improves the following sustainable development goals: good health and well-being by reducing maternal and neonatal mortalities, gender equality by ensuring universal access to reproductive health services, and it reduces inequality by promoting social and economic inclusion of all. What activities we had in the project was first to build up project teams in Finland and in Uganda. In Finland, we have 5 volunteers dedicated to the project, including 2 doctors, for example, who helped us to design the box and the project, and also a local team in Uganda that there was also a doctor and a midwife from the health center, and local Rotarians, mainly from the Kampala Morning Stars, but also other clubs were in that team. And next step was find funding for the project. We luckily got 2 Finnish Rotary clubs to support our initiative, and also we sold a good amount of Finnish sweet licorice to raise funds for the project. Then we piloted the project in Janja with 20 vulnerable mothers. Janja is a low-income community around Kampala. There is one health center that facilitates around 80 deliveries per year, but only 50% of the mothers use reproductive health services. The rest cannot afford to attend. It included free antenatal checkup with laboratory tests and ultrasound scanning for the mothers, free delivery, free postnatal checkup, and the actual baby box. We started this project from the actual box, but then we added these free services as well to the project, because we were thinking if these mothers cannot afford to come for the services, the box might not be enough for them to come for antenatal and deliver in health center. And project period was from May until July 2022. And here is some pictures of our project. We started the project with awareness raising campaign with local health educators. We were walking around the Janja area and informing people about this project, upcoming project, and asked the mothers to come for the health center at a certain time so they can hear more about the project. And when they came here, we educated them about issues concerning pregnancy and childbirth. And then to be able to identify the 20 mothers most in need of this project, we did a questionnaire for them so that we could pick the most vulnerable mothers in our project. Now, this second picture is from ultrasound scanning. Scanning is very important in order to find possible complications that might be during childbirth. So it was good to do these ultrasound scannings as well to the mothers. And the next picture is the content of the box. It was designed together with local project team to meet the local needs. And the products were bought locally using local and sustainable products when possible. It included a basin, a pair of reusable diapers, baby sheet, clothes and towel, skin oil, soap, baby wipes, feeding bottle, sanitary pads. And also milk formula was available at the health center for those who really needed it. We left it out from the actual packet because we don't want to encourage mothers to use it if they can breastfeed their babies, because that is the best for the babies. And also mosquito net was planned to include in the box, but it was provided in the area, so we left it out from this project. And in this picture, Rotarian Mercy Kainobwisho hands over the first baby box to a new mother at Jancha Community Health Center. What impact we had with this project was that the number of pregnant mothers taking part in antenatal care and hospital deliveries increased. The health center staff told us that many pregnant mothers used to fear coming to the facility because of financial problems, but since we started the project, the number of antenatal and deliveries increased. 3 mothers had C-sections, but no other complications before, during, or after the deliveries was in this project with these mothers. And all the mothers and babies are well and alive. And the baby box helped them to start with their newborn babies. Mothers also told that they didn't really expect much when they heard about the initiative, because they had seen so many government and other projects where people come and promise things, then they go and nothing much happens. So in the end, they were extremely humbled by the commitment and trust for keeping our word and the support given towards them. One mother even told that without this intervention, she probably wouldn't have her child, and was extremely happy about the support we gave to her and her baby. Conclusion and some recommendations for the future. Piloting a project first on a small scale is a very good way to test a new program. And also reliable actors is needed. In our project, we faced some problems because the doctor in charge was not reliable. I lost contact with her, and we found out that she didn't pay, for example, some service providers, and finally the hospital dismissed her. That is not an uncommon problem in the field of development cooperation, but still very disappointing. Also, adequate resources are needed. In this project, time was very limited and set some limitations to the project. And concerning this baby box project, the local context is very important to take into consideration when designing a baby box project. For example, what works here in Finland doesn't necessarily work as such straight in Uganda. So it is really, really important to take the local needs, culture, climate, everything into consideration when designing it. And also to cooperate with the existing healthcare system is essential, as it is a healthcare project where we try to funnel the mothers to the healthcare system. So it has to cooperate with it. Possible improvements for future projects would be an info leaflet. We were planning to include it also into this project, but we left it out because of the time challenges we had. Peer support groups, for example, would be really good at. That could create new lifelong networks between mothers, children, and families. And also including fathers into the program would be a good add, and it also would improve gender equality. And the sustainability plan for a longer period would be needed also, not also only ecological, but also financial sustainability. That is in many cases problem with these baby box projects, because if the government is not willing to adopt the project, then we have to have some organization who will fund it for a longer period and in a larger scale. But this was a good pilot project, and we got really good results with our pilot project. Thank you. If you have any questions, comments, please feel free to contact me. Here's my email also. Thank you.
Thank you, Suvi.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Tom Okoth. I'm from Kenya. My question goes to Howard. Howard explained about village saving. And there in Kenya also we have got a project within the rural setup, and we call it village saving and loaning. And Mr. Howard, I was glad when I could see you are explaining factual things. But I have a question concerning the pictorial information you shared. I could only see the photos of women. I didn't see men. And it made me also wonder or flashback back in Kenya. Village saving is mostly found among the women. Most men are not involved in it. So I don't know if that's the case with your area of study. And you gave a good story, though very sad, about men. When these two men consumed the money. So I don't know if that is what made you now to stick on the women alone, or are men really pro this or they are against it? And I have also to say that village saving, basing on the experience that I have, it comes with it, it has pros and cons. A time reached whereby when the women are empowered, you find that now men will start uttering some words. Okay, nowadays you have your own money. You don't even talk to me well in the best way. So that is an experience I have as far as the village saving is concerned. So may you explain to us or me concerning the pictorial information that you shared? Thank you.
Is that a question for Suvi? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Richie Olaka, also from Kenya. I have a question for Suvi. So for me, it's basically a question of the Baby Box Uganda is really a noble project if you look at it in terms of reducing maternal and infant mortality. But then my question is, how does this feed into the framework, the health framework within the Ugandan government? Because when all is said and done, really, it's the Ministry of Health in Uganda and the Ministry of Health in any other country that will be implementing whichever project that's really tasked with the healthcare of its people. So maybe my question is, how does this feed into the framework, the existing health framework in the Republic of Uganda? Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's one question per each, as we say in Uganda. So, Suvi, I'll ask you to respond to your question, and then Howard will respond to his, and we'll move on.
I think it should be in the interest of Ugandan government also to get the maternal mortality and infant mortality rates down. They are quite high in the area right now and creating a lot of problems. But I understand that Uganda has a lot of other problems too, and other challenges which they need to fund. So I'm not so hopeful that that they are willing to adopt this kind of project as such. But I hope Ugandan government is taking this problem seriously and maybe thinking about the options how they could lower these rates, because they are quite far from, for example, these sustainable development goals right now. But maybe I see that the way forward would be to do this in a larger scale next, and maybe with good results we could show them that that this really works, and we can get these mothers to the healthcare system and reduce these numbers when we get the mothers to healthcare professionals, and that way they might get interest about this kind of project.
Yes, my friend from Kenya. I thank you for a good question. Yeah, it is true that my pictures were so much dominated by women, much as there were few men. Maybe for your information, back there in Bunyoro, culture works. For any woman to participate in any program must seek consent from the man. By virtue of the woman or women participating in those programs, men accepted them to do so. So during our mobilization and the inception, we encouraged men to accept their women to participate. But at the same time, those women you are seeing, they are representing households. The contributions they make it on behalf of households. So, and there is a division of labor in most cases. Men during the daytime, maybe during daytime before evening, they are for some specific activities that it does not permit them to participate in such events. So we had to respect, culture needs to be respected for any project implementation. Thank you so much.
My question goes to Suvi. I would love to know how she arrived at Chanja as an area that she had to find vulnerable women, because anyone in Uganda would tell you that's an area for middle income status earners. So how did she get there? And maybe that content of her box is, as a medical person, I don't see how directly it affects the maternal health, really. It's kind of challenging, because unless they had to include all those services, which originally is not part of the box, I don't see its effectiveness. Maybe she can justify. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the question. Actually, the Chanja area was the area we took to the project because during my studies last autumn in Uganda, we visited there with my Rotary host counselor, Samuel, and their club and two other clubs has a project there where they provide mama kits to the mothers, and that are the things they need when they go to deliver at the health center. So it's like sterile gloves and such things. And then this was kind of a next step to that. It was easy to pick that because of Rotarians has this other project there already as kind of a continuum to this. And when we walked to the area, we noticed that there is households that are doing more well, and then there is households that are doing not so good. So the area, it was not an equal area. There was clearly more poor residents, and then these middle income households. And with that questionnaire, we tried to find the most vulnerable part of the population in that area to target our project to them who cannot afford to come for these services. Otherwise, like the health center told us that 50% of the mothers come for these services now. So we tried to find those 50% that doesn't come for these services otherwise or cannot afford them. And about the content, yes, it is not as such anything medical or such, but like in Finland, it worked because it's worth of money, and it's clothes and things that these families need anyway with a newborn baby. So that is kind of an incentive for them to come for these services, to be able to get that box, and it helps them with the beginning of new life after the delivery. So it is kind of a bonus. And I was thinking that it took, in Finland, it took 10 years until the Finnish government first adopted is to disadvantaged mothers. And from that also, another 10 years until it was an equal benefit for all the mothers, and it still is.
Thank you all for being here, for joining us for this second CAPSTONE conference, this 2022 year of our Lord, but also our 100th year of Makerere University. We thank you for being resilient and staying with us through it all. We are not yet done, but we are done here. So we have a farewell dinner for the Cohort 2 fellows at Fairway Hotel. We look forward to joining you there and you joining us there. And till then, do have a good evening. Thank you very much.
Choka walemera kusini